Am I the a-hole for telling my husband's parents that they have a 5-year-old grandchild? A couple months ago, I found out my husband of 10 years has a 5-year-old daughter that he has been an active part of raising. No infidelity occurred, but he kept this hidden from me, and it is still a huge betrayal. He also kept this hidden from his parents. I've always had a great relationship with my in-laws. Over the last 14 years, they have truly become my family. My own parents passed away when I was a teenager, and they have taken me in as their adopted daughter. My husband's stepdad even walked me down the aisle at our wedding. My husband never told his parents about this child because he didn't want me to find out. When I found out about everything, I asked if they even knew, and my husband assured me they did not. He also begged me to not tell them. I told him I would not, but told him that he would have to do so himself. He did not, and this past Friday, the stress and anger all caught up to me. I'm not proud of it, but I got way too drunk, and I called his mom and told her everything. Now my husband's entire family's angry with him. His mom is devastated. She loves babies and toddlers. She always wanted more herself, or to one day have grandkids, and now she feels she missed out. And when he went over to try and talk to her yesterday, his stepdad came out and told my husband he wasn't welcome on his property. My husband has some mental health and neurodivergence issues, and my actions this weekend have caused some pretty bad anxiety spirals, and he had to go to the inpatient psych clinic last night. My husband is really angry with me for telling them myself and the way that I did. He said that was an a-hole move. Now that I'm sitting alone in the house, I am starting to think that he might be right about that. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband's mom about a secret baby? Edit. I wasn't going to go into this because it really isn't relevant to the situation that I am asking if I'm the a-hole over. But to ease all the inquiring minds, 6 years ago, my husband was approached by an old friend and her wife asking him to be a sperm donor. My husband and I talked about it, and I told him I was not comfortable with it, and he said he wouldn't go through with it. Supposedly, the friend pressured him, and he did it. This is what he said, so I don't know if it is true. I'm just relaying it as he told me. Friend's wife unexpectedly and sadly passed away, and the husband started co-parenting with his friend around this time. Friend has also lied to me and said they found a different donor. My husband is an active parent to this child now. She calls him daddy, and we are missing at least $25,000 from our family's finances that has gone towards this kid's care. He even lied to me that he was going to a friend's bachelor party, but instead went to Disney with his child and her mother. This is not just a case of him being a sperm donor. Now for the top comments before reading the mini update. Even if he didn't cheat on you physically, he knowingly created a child outside of his marriage, actively raised it, and kept it a secret from you and his family. This was wrong, and he knows it's wrong. Not the a-hole. Looks like he missed the memo on honesty being the best policy in relationships. Absolutely, with a caveat of, does this outfit make me look fat? Which is never a good question to answer honestly. On a more serious note, I cannot believe how much betrayal was involved from both the husband and his friend. Financially, physically, and emotionally. I have no sympathy for his supposed breakdown. I hope Opie gets out soon, finds peace, and keeps the in-laws in the divorce. He has a kid with someone who isn't his wife and he didn't tell you. No matter how it happened, that's a pretty huge secret. He's the a-hole. Not only that, but he lied about a trip to Disneyland that he went with a child and her mother on and said he went camping. I'm stunned at all the YTA votes. What the heck were you supposed to do? This is a huge betrayal. I would have definitely told his mom. She deserves to know. He's been keeping a secret this long. When would he actually tell her? I'm so sorry this happened to you. Not the a-hole. I'm so shocked by these votes. She even gave him a chance to tell them and he did not. He is the a-hole here, and the friend for doing it knowing the wife was against it. Edit/mini update. Yes, my marriage is over due to this. I am absolutely 100% divorcing and have consulted an attorney. Unfortunately, my brother-in-law is terminally ill, and I'm helping to financially support my sister and nibblings while they are dealing with all that. So the divorce has a pin until 2024 at the earliest. I'm probably the a-hole here for the way I spill the beans, but I am not going to beat myself up about it at all. I'm going to get some me time while my husband is in inpatient care. Next story. Am I the a-hole for leaving my fiancé's family dinner after being introduced as his girlfriend? For a little context, I, female 26, and my fiancé, male 32, have been engaged for a year and a half. He was born in Spain, and his family still lives there, and in the time of our relationship of about 4 years, have not visited the States since. I have never been introduced to his family, not even on a FaceTime call, which I always wished changed, but he wanted to make meeting them special. My family have met my fiancé many times, and they all love him. We are also Dominican, so the language barrier with his family wouldn't matter. In February, my fiancé's family planned to visit for about 2 months since it's been so long. I live in my own place, so they'd be staying with my fiancé only. His mom, dad, sister, and brother-in-law all came, and they planned a dinner party with me and some of my fiancé's friends and co-workers, so more like a welcome party. I was beyond excited to meet them and finally announced our engagement. The day came and I went over to his house. My fiancé talked to me prior and told me his family is very outspoken, and if his mom says anything out of line, to not worry about it. He said this concerning our age, cultural difference, and my job, which is a special ed teacher, while my fiancé is a lawyer. I was kind of worried because I didn't want them to think poorly of me based on all that, but he assured me he'd be there to back me up. The party starts and I prepped everything, cooked the food and set the tables. His parents arrived and see me and ask who I was. He pauses and says I'm his girlfriend. I looked at him shocked, and he gave me a go-along-with-it look. Beyond my better judgment, I agreed. The dinner goes on, and my fiancé's parents make a judgmental comment about the country where my family's from. I corrected them, and then she makes comments about my curly hair and how odd it was. My fiancé said nothing and tried to change the convo. Later on, it was brought up how young I was, and he says it doesn't matter. My job got brought up, and they said there's no way I can survive off my salary. During the dinner, I completely forgot I had my ring on, and his mom spotted it and says, "That's not an engagement ring, is it?" My fiancé gives me an angry look like I was supposed to know I was playing girlfriend tonight, and says it's my grandma's old ring. I was fed up and said we have been engaged for a while and is lying to you for God knows what. I leave without saying another word and get a crap ton of calls from him. He said he wanted to get his mom's approval before announcing, and I told him, then what the heck was the point of engaging in the first place? I was just too angry to just sit there and lie to save his butt. He said his mom thought that was very disrespectful and immature. She doesn't see why I couldn't wait until after and talk to him. She completely dismissed him lying to her face, but that's not my concern. I left the ring in his mailbox and haven't seen them since. He tried contacting my family, but I refused to see him though until I get a true apology and not blaming me for this. Not the a-hole. So for a dinner party at this dude's house, you were expected to do all the cooking and preparation, then pretend to be only a girlfriend, so 32-year-old dude's mommy won't get upset? Run like the wind, and do not look back at the xenophobic, ignorant family, and make this dude your ex. Not the a-hole. Your ex-fiancé is an idiot, not to mention incredibly disrespectful towards you. I'm sure culturally he felt he was supposed to get their permission before getting engaged, but he didn't, and he needed to man up before you were introduced to his family. The idiot part comes in where he didn't talk to you beforehand and get your agreement that you would pretend not to be engaged. Otherwise, of course you were going to wear your engagement ring to meet his family. I mean, they didn't even know Opie existed when they arrived. They had to ask who she was. They didn't know he was seeing anyone. They didn't know she was going to be there. After 4 years. That's so far beyond play girlfriend for a night. There are so many marinara flags. It's like a dang lasagna, not the a-hole. Maybe Romesco flags. He is Spanish after all. Next story. Am I the a-hole for not adopting another woman's child? I'm 25 female. I'm single, live alone, and have a good paying job. Due to an accident when I was a teenager, I cannot have children. I have never wanted children of my own, so this is not as big of a deal to me as it could be. I have friends with kids who think of me as their cool aunt, and I'm happy with that. This is important because of a woman I know, Allie, 18 female, not her real name. Allie is the family member of a woman my brother is good friends with, who's become basically family. Allie lives with this woman, so my whole family knows her pretty well. She's a nice girl who had a daughter, Anne, 8 months female. Her baby was taken away from her due to suspected neglect. Allie decided to tell CPS that I was a safe person to place Anne with since I know the baby and live close by. I would not have had an issue with this except that Allie did not tell me. I got a call the morning after Anne was taken away at 6 a.m. while I was getting ready for work. CPS asked me to calm down and talk with them and take the baby until they have a foster placement opened. I got Anne and my boss was very understanding about me coming to work late. And with a baby, so I had no time to get a sitter for her. And I work alone mostly anyway, so she wouldn't disturb anyone. I had Anne for about a week, and CPS wanted me to get licensed as a foster parent so she could stay with me while Allie did what she needed to do to get her baby back. Then shortly after I agreed to get licensed, I got a call from Allie's lawyer talking about adoption. Allie did not want Anne back and tried to paint this picture of me being this infertile woman who could finally be blessed with a kid of my own. I struggled a lot because I do love kids, but I have never wanted my own, and this felt more like Allie was putting off her responsibility onto me. But Allie told me that I could afford it because I made more money than anyone else in my family/friend circle. I got pretty upset and stopped answering Allie's calls after I confirmed with her that she absolutely did not want to get Anne back. I called Health and Welfare and took back my offer of getting licensed, sending them an email from Allie's lawyer where she states she doesn't want custody. At the time, I figured that if Allie wants to put Anne for adoption, that she has the best chance of getting adopted while she is still a baby. It wouldn't be beneficial to Anne for me to foster her in hopes Allie changes her mind, and I don't want to have Anne for years and her start to think of me as her mom. I felt it would be less traumatic for her to get adopted while she is a baby to a family that wants and will love her. I truly thought that was the best option, and I felt I was doing the right thing for Anne. But now I am being called all kinds of names by Allie, and she is trying to twist the story to make it seem like I am burying Anne in the system. She thought that if I adopted Anne that she could still be in her life, but not actually have to be her mom, which is not what I would have allowed if I did adopt her. I am now questioning if I made a right call. So am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. She's a nice girl. Her baby was taken away from her due to suspected neglect. Allie did not tell me. I'm being called all kinds of names by Allie, and she is trying to twist the story. I'm confused. How on earth is the first statement here compatible with all the others and indeed the entire story? Not a-hole, except for the part where you really don't seem to see Allie very clearly. Thank you. Allow me to clarify because I can see how that's not clear. I meant that up until this point, I've always thought Allie was nice. A bit of an airhead at times, but always friendly. I am sad about this situation, and I think one day she'll really regret all this. It'll be far too late by then though. She might regret it, but more importantly, if you adopted Anne and allowed Allie to see her, it would then make you the person that Allie would continue to give her children to, because she sure as heck would keep popping them out. Not the a-hole. Sounds like she just wants you around for all the hard work, so that she can just swoop in whenever she wants. That was my first thought. Allie only wants to be a mom when it's convenient for her. She wants someone else to do all the heavy lifting. Nope. Not the a-hole. You went above and beyond a call of duty to take a baby in for any length of time. You deserve kudos for having the best interests of the baby at heart. Seems you're the only one. Stand firm, and don't become a parent until you decide you really want to be one. I honestly expected Opie not to take the child at all. What a twist. Not the a-hole. Last story. Am I the a-hole for not helping my sister with her newborn twins? I'm a 26 female and I have a younger sister, Sadie, 19 female, and we don't talk often. She lives in Canada with her newborn twins, Iris and Layla, while I moved to England a few years ago to study at my dream university. I ended staying here with my now husband, Louis, 30 male. Sadie got pregnant at 18 with Tyler, her boyfriend at the time. Tyler and his sister ended up in a car accident a few months after she announced she was pregnant. He and his sister didn't survive the accident. Sadie was very upset during the rest of her pregnancy, though my parents were luckily there to help her out. Then after her babies were born, my dad was diagnosed with lung cancer because of all of his smoking. My mom had to help my dad out a lot. I didn't have as much time to help Sadie with her twins. So Sadie reached out to me a few months ago and asked if we could send her some money every month so she could hire a babysitter for her kids and help my dad. Louis and I agreed, since we are financially stable and could afford it. She was very thankful to us. But a few weeks ago, she reached out again and asked if we could move back to Canada to help with the twins. This time, Louis and I refused. I feel like it's too much. We've built a life here in England, and my husband has a demanding job here and it would take him a while to find another one in Canada. My mom has sent me a few texts begging for me to come back, because they could really use the help, and now I feel kind of bad. Am I the a-hole? Some info on Tyler's family. Tyler's sister is actually his half-sister. They share a dad. His sister is over a decade older than him and has raised Tyler since he was 11. His mom died while giving birth to him, and their dad died of a terminal illness. Her sister's mom just wasn't in her life. You're not required to uproot your life to be additional parents to your sister's children. She was fine to ask. You're fine to say no. No a-holes here. She wasn't fine to ask. It's the most ridiculous request. She's a 19-year-old with newborn twins and a dead baby daddy. I doubt she's concerned with things like etiquette and boundaries right now. Ed is far more concerned with survival and getting the help she obviously needs. I'd cut her a little bit of slack here. Yes, knowing you're beyond your depth and asking for help regardless is a sign of maturity. But it still doesn't mean Opie has to say yes. No a-holes here. No a-holes here. I don't think your sister is an a-hole. She is scared and drowning and she asked for help. You said no and she seems to have dropped it. I am not sure if you texts begging for help makes your mom an a-hole, but she's leaning that way, especially if she doesn't drop it. People are not a-holes for asking for help. They are only a-holes if they don't respect your right to decline. And I do not think you are the a-hole for declining in this case. I agree with this. I can't help but feel deeply sorry for this grieving young 19-year-old single mom of twins, who's also nursing her parents through a lung cancer diagnosis. She really must feel like she's drowning. This isn't her asking Opie to come help with the kids, as much as come help with the entire family's crisis. Opie, if I were you, I would see if I could hire an at-home nurse or research local services that can help your sister and mom. If they belong to a church, maybe also reach out to them and ask for some help. There are things you can do from England to help alleviate the incredible burden without moving back. Update. I'm 28 female, lost weight, and now I want to divorce my husband, 29 male. Original post. We've been married for 5 years and together for 7 years. We also have a 3-year-old kid. After having the baby, I struggled a lot with losing the baby weight and adjusting to being a parent. I also had a baby blues at first, which was tough. I wasn't really focused on my appearance, and instead I was trying to figure out our new routine and way of life. But then my husband started making these little comments about my body and how I should start working out and wearing makeup again. It made me feel really awful, and I worried that he might start looking elsewhere because we weren't being intimate anymore. He even suggested hiring a nanny so I could have more time for myself, but I wanted to be there for our baby full-time, so I turned down the offer. That made him angry, and he started acting cold towards me. Months went by without any hugs, kisses, romance, or any kind of affection. My self-esteem hit rock bottom. Every time I looked in the mirror, all I saw were the flaws that my husband pointed out. By this point, our son was already 2 years old, and I desperately wanted to win my husband back. I thought that if I got in shape again, he would show me love and affection and our marriage would be saved. I craved his attention so much, and it hurt to see how much things has changed. But you can't force someone to be affectionate. I took matters into my own hands and hired some help. With more free time, I started going to the gym, taking swimming classes, which are amazing for your back by the way, getting my hair and lashes done regularly and eating healthier. And guess what? I've lost a ton of weight, and I feel amazing. Suddenly, my husband started touching me, kissing me, buying me flowers, and treating me like the complete opposite of how he treated me before. You'd think that would make me feel better, but for some reason, it made me feel worse. All I could think about were the hurtful things he said to me when I was at my lowest, and how cold he was towards me. I get that you can't force attraction, but why couldn't he just hug me or give me a kiss on the cheek, even when I was overweight? Why couldn't he love me as a human being and the mother of his child? When my self-esteem came back, I got really angry at myself for putting up with his behavior for so long. A few days ago, I told him I wanted a divorce because I don't think I could move past how badly he treated me. He apologized and promised to change and prove that he can be better. But honestly, I'm not sure if I can trust him again. What if I gain weight again or have to deal with health issues? Will he treat me like garbage again? I've talked to some friends and family about the whole situation, and some say I should give him another chance while others say I should leave him. So I'm turning to Reddit for some advice. Am I justified in being upset over this? Do you think it's possible for my husband to change his behavior for a long term? Or is a divorce the right move here? Now for the top advice before reading the update. Yes, you're justified. I've had huge weight swings in my marriage, and my husband never treated me like crap when I was heavier. Based on what is he going to change? Saying you will is meaningless. Frankly, I wouldn't want to be with someone who treated strangers like that, let alone me. How will you treat your kid if they are overweight? I've been both my lowest weight and my highest weight in my current relationship, and how I look has never had an impact on how my husband treated me. When I was 140 pounds, he told me I was sexy and couldn't keep his hands off me. And when I was 220 pounds, he told me I was sexy and couldn't keep his hands off me. 100% justified. OP's husband has shown that he cannot, and will not, hold up his end of for better and for worse through sickness and in health. What happens if she gets cancer, loses a limb, or when she inevitably ages and starts sagging? Booed him to the curb. Gosh, I'm so sorry. This is truly awful. I'm a year older than you. I'm almost 30, and I'm telling you that there's so much more out there for you. My daughter is 6 now, and when I left her father, I thought my life was over. He used to complain about everything. How I dressed, the music I listened to, the TV shows I watched. I realized after my daughter was born, I would never want her to deal with the treatment I was accepting for myself. Move on. If you gain weight again, or heaven forbid, get sick in some way, this is not the man you want to be by your side. Those men are out there, and you are so young. You can find someone who will love you with no strings attached. Now for the update. Thanks a lot for all the advice you gave me after my last post. It was really tough to make a decision, especially considering our son. So I sat down with my husband and had a conversation about what happened. He kept saying sorry, but I asked him if he actually understood why his behavior was hurtful. He just kept saying he was being a jerk, but I feel like he didn't really grasp why it was a problem. So I broke it down for him. I told him that saying I still look pregnant 3 months after giving birth, or calling me a mess because of my dark circles, rolling his eyes when I wanted to show affection, not talking to me for days without any reason, and not wanting to spend time together were all really hurtful. And on top of that, he didn't offer to help so I could take care of my mental health. Instead, he wanted me to go to the gym and get in shape. When I reminded him of all this, he couldn't even look me in the eye and didn't say a word. The silence in the room was so thick you could cut it with a knife. I just don't think he fully understands how badly he treated me. No amount of extra weight can justify that kind of behavior. I wouldn't treat a stranger like that, let alone someone I love. But for the sake of our son, I still offered him couples counseling. And guess what? He refused. He said he was afraid that the therapist and I would team up against him and make things worse. We went round and round in circles, and after almost 3 hours of talking, I finally had enough and told him I wanted a divorce. He tried to convince me that he could prove he can change, but when I asked him how, he just said I had to have faith in him and see it for myself down the line. That's just not good enough for me. I told him I was taking our son to my mom's place for the weekend and that we would discuss everything before finalizing the divorce on Monday. He said okay and we left. But now he won't stop blowing up my phone, begging for a second chance, and telling me how much he loves me and how he made a mistake. It's really disheartening to see how much he changed after we had our son. All I ever wanted from him was love, loyalty, and respect. But he didn't give me any of that in the past few years. I still wanted to give him a chance, but he doesn't want to put in the work to make things better. If it comes to that, I'll be able to raise our son on my own as I'm financially independent and secure. I also have a lot of help, so it'll be okay. I still want him to be a part of our son's life and be the best daddy he can be. But I can't be with someone who doesn't love or respect me. I wanted to thank you again for all your support and the advice you gave me. I thought my husband was the person I would grow old with, but the universe has other plans for me. It will be really hard to let him go, but I'm hoping it's for the better. His refusal to attend counseling proves he is more interested in protecting his ego than mending the relationship. Best of luck. You deserve a partner that can show you respect and affection. I have a feeling he only wants her back, because getting divorced is also a bruise to his ego and how he would look to his peers. And yet, he hasn't even listed a single way he would change. This exactly. After I split up with my ex-husband, he begged for a year to get back together. When I finally asked what would be different if we got back together, he looked puzzled and said, "Well, nothing. But you've got to take me back, because you're my wife." Needless to say, I declined. It's always confusing for me when someone refuses therapy but in the same breath says they don't want to lose you. It just shows they will still always put themselves first. Agreed. After reading that, I was thinking, okay, this is a shot to own up to his mistakes and try to fix things with this relationship. But nope, doesn't seem like he's up for that. It seems like he knows he messed up big time, assuming his wife and therapist would team up against him. It also shows he's not putting in much effort to understand why he messed up and make things right. So the OP going for a divorce was probably the right move. Proud of you for standing up for yourself. It's hard, but so worth it. Last story. Update. My 30 female husband, 34 male, keeps sneaking out to the middle of the night. Original post. As the title says, my husband keeps sneaking out in the middle of the night. For basically as long as I can remember, I've gotten up around 4 a.m. or so to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night. That's just how my body is. And lately when I do so, I won't find my husband in bed. In fact, I can't find him anywhere. He does have pretty bad insomnia, and sometimes on really bad nights, I would find him in the living room watching TV or playing a video game. Also, it is not every night. It's maybe every other night that he is sneaking out. I'm trying not to let it bother me, but this has been going on for about a month now, and I'm starting to get really annoyed/worried about where he's going and what he's doing at such weird hours of the night. It happened again the other night, and I stayed up until he decided to come home at 6 a.m. Mind you, I don't know how long he was actually gone, just that he hadn't been there from about 4 a.m. until then. I admit I was pretty cranky and annoyed when he got home, and I asked him where he had been. He told me not to worry about it and let's go back to sleep. I kept pushing, and he said he just goes out for a walk. I wasn't satisfied with that answer, but the conversation kept going back, so he just takes a walk to burn any extra energy or to clear his head when he can't sleep. So I decided to drop it, as I was pretty tired and had to be up in an hour to go to work anyway. Well, it happened again tonight/this morning. I got up to go to the bathroom and I couldn't find my husband anywhere. Again, I was really annoyed, and I stayed up to see when he would get home. It was 5:35, so that's an improvement at least. When he got home, he looked so sleepy and climbed into bed. And without saying a word, I got out and took my pillow and blanket and came to the couch where I am now. I know it's petty to give him the silent treatment, but I'm frustrated, and I just want to be by myself right now. I can hear him snoring, so I guess his walk worked. I'm not sure what to do now. I'm exhausted and I honestly just want to know the truth. Should I confront him? I'm not big in confrontation, but at the same time, I really want to know what's going on. Now for the top advice before reading the update. It's weird that he didn't mention it until you caught him. Everyone is saying you're out of line for being suspicious, probably isn't married. Because the first time me or my husband's insomnia was bad enough, we left the house on foot, in the dark for hours. We would mention something the next morning. Like, wow, crazy, right? But it really helped, so I might keep taking walks. Checking in with your life partner like this isn't controlling, it's for safety. He doesn't need your permission, but if he's outside in the middle of the night, you should know. What if he doesn't come home one morning? You call the cops and report him missing and all you can say is, I don't know. He says he walks for hours at night, but I have no idea where he went/where he could be. I actually am constantly sharing my location in my phone with my husband, my mom, and my best friend for reasons like this. Your husband can do what he wants without permission, but not without giving you a heads up as a courtesy. I honestly think he's probably doing something shady and you should trust your gut. It sounds like he's pretty dismissive when you ask where he's been. Let's be real here. Going for a walk for 2 hours in the middle of the night is not normal. Does he acknowledge that? Does he validate the trauma you have on top of that? Is he working on things he might do to avoid such strange behavior? Nothing in this post suggests to me that you're jumping to conclusions, and I think most people would suspect something is wrong here. I think you should insist on a more thorough discussion with him before anything else. A friend has really bad insomnia and goes for a walk in the middle of the night. It is often the only thing that enables her to sleep. Okay, but if your friend's partner wanted to know where she had been, would she be dismissive of their concern? When she came back, yes. As if she gets straight into bed, she can sometimes go to sleep. But if she is interrupted, she won't get any sleep. OP needs to have a sit-down conversation with him at a different time and see what the case is. Now for the update 9 months later. Hello all, I wanted to provide you with an update. Apologies for taking so long to update. My life has been a whirlwind for the past 8 months, and I honestly haven't been in the best mental state. Also warning, this update touches on topics of depression, drug use, and cheating. So, about 2 months ago, a police car pulled up to my house and 2 police officers knocked on my door. They told me they were there to do a wellness check on my husband because his girlfriend hadn't heard from him in 3 days and was worried about him. They asked me if I was his sister or what my relationship to him was. I told them I was his wife, and beyond that I can't even remember what I said. I was in shock. I just remembered them leaving and me closing the door and crying. He was at work at a time, and when he got home, he could tell I was upset. I mean, it was obvious, because every time I tried to speak, I would just start crying again. Eventually, it got to the point that I guess he knew he had to come clean, and he told me everything. So yeah, I found out he had been cheating on me with an ex-coworker of his. Not only this, but he had been supporting her and her 2 kids, because she couldn't hold down a job and he didn't want them to end up homeless. The reason she couldn't hold down a job is because she was/is into drugs, and would go on week-long benders where she just wouldn't show up to work. And he says that about a year ago she called him out of the blue and cried to him, saying that she was about to lose her apartment because her husband was cheating on her and had basically vanished. Ironic, I know. leaving her with all the bills that had to be paid, and her 2 kids needed food and new stuff for school. He says that at first, it was just financially supporting her and her kids, until he started doing the drugs with her, and that's when things escalated. He told me he had cut things off with her 3 days before the police showed up, and that's why they were doing a wellness check. So I asked him if that was where he was going when he was sneaking out. He said yes, for the most part. He also said, to be fair, I really would just go on a walk or drive around sometimes. And I know there are going to be questions about how I didn't notice the missing money, so here's my answer. We have separate bank accounts. He pays for his bills and I pay for mine. And our joint bill comes out of my account, and it pays me back whatever the total is for those bills. And well, he never stopped paying me for those bills, and household things that were in his name never got shut off. So I never had a reason to think anything was wrong in that area. I've been so emotionally numb for these past 2 months, and he has been begging me for about 2 months to make a decision about our relationship. As in divorce, because being in limbo is really stressful for him. I honestly just don't want to even put any energy into thinking about the future at all right now. All of my friends and family are telling me to get a divorce. But I don't know, everything had been great up until 8 months ago, and our lives are so intertwined. That feels so stupid to say, but I'm basically paralyzed with numbness. I did, however, make an appointment for couples therapy, so I guess I will see how that goes. He seems up to it. And I just wanted to extend a thank you to all the people that took the time to read this and the last one. I'm so sorry. I hate to add to your pain, but you need to get an STD test now. If he was sleeping with a drug addict, then he could pass something on to you. Please think seriously about seeing a divorce attorney to see about your options. STD test was the first thing I thought of too, then also divorce this man. Your life is not intertwined enough to stay with someone who would only confess because he got caught. Change your couples therapy to personal therapy and find some self-love and self-respect. If your best friend told you this was happening to them, what would you advise them to do? He's not just sleeping with her, he is also doing drugs. Who knows where the substances come from, or what it's laced with, or with whom else they use? If applicable, are they sharing needles? I'm sorry, but there is no salvaging this relationship. Even now he's more worried about himself over what he did to you, OP. I mean, seriously, it's causing him stress? What? Like the past 8+ months of you asking and worrying didn't cause you stress? He's selfish and doesn't really seem to care what you decide. He just wants it done. Personally, I'd end it and get tested ASAP if you haven't already. Also, I freaking laughed with his. To be fair, he did walk sometimes. Oh, okay. Guess I can forgive you since there were a few nights in the last 8+ months you haven't been banging someone else, doing drugs and risking my health and financial stability. Whatever. Also, don't tell him now. Go speak to an attorney. Get your ducks in a row and make a plan. Then let him know you've filed and have him served. You make the first move. Update. Am I the a-hole for serving my husband divorce papers when he wanted a divorce? Original post. I, 39 female, was pregnant and a stay-at-home mom to my toddler when my husband, 39 male, told me he didn't love me and wanted to split up because I was too hormonal. I was blindsided. Admittedly, I had been critical of his messiness, his challenges in keeping up with household duties, and our differing values. He prioritized work while I valued a more balanced lifestyle. He had committed to a vegan lifestyle while dating me, but later abandoned it, which I criticized. Despite the shock, I tried to fight for our relationship, apologized profusely, and we gave it another shot. The baby was born, and 3 months in, he told me he wanted a divorce after I woke him up at 10 a.m. to move his laundry. I was feeling resentful about his lack of help, but because he works late nights, he considered this the ultimate disrespect. He flipped out, swore at me, and said he wanted out. We both wanted to settle outside of court, so we looked for mediators. I found 2, but it went nowhere because we were so far apart. He demanded 50% custody, immediate overnights for the kids, and to pay no child support, even though he was the breadwinner. He claimed that because my parents have money, they should cover us. He even argued that we weren't married, claiming it wasn't a divorce because we hadn't filed the marriage license on time, even though we had both a religious and civil ceremony. When mediation went nowhere, I got a lawyer without his knowledge and planned to serve him divorce papers. Before I served him, he moved out but still expected to use the house. One time, he came back to see the kids, but he was being loud and disruptive while working, so I asked him to leave. This led to a major altercation where he swore at me in front of the kids and my parents threatened to call the cops. After this incident, he canceled the credit card I used to pay for the kids without warning. Then he was served the papers. Immediately, he demanded my car title, which had his name on it, and the kids' passports. And he canceled my phone service, which he had been paying for. Since I didn't have a working phone, and my lawyer considered him a flight risk, and because he wasn't communicating efficiently through the lawyers to set up a schedule, he didn't see the kids for 2 weeks. We had our day in court, but the final determination has been delayed because he insists we aren't married. Since being served, he has been furious and accuses me of being pure evil. But the divorce was his idea. I wanted to work things out. He believes that taking him to court for custody and child support is the most vile thing and reflects poorly on my character. He has bad-mouthed me to family and friends and claims I've been controlling with the kids' schedule. He sees them 3 days a week, but I'm not comfortable with sleepovers at his house yet. He is also angry about the 2 weeks he didn't see the kids, even though he still hasn't paid a dime of their expenses, and now has more potential quality time with them than he ever did before. So tell me, am I the a-hole for serving my husband divorce papers and asking for child support for my young sons instead of just letting him leave and giving him 50% custody? Now for the top comments before reading the update. The old 50% custody so shouldn't have to pay child support ploy. With a newborn? Huh, you're doing all the things. Keep listening to your lawyer, not the a-hole. Listen to your lawyer, listen to your lawyer, listen to your lawyer. Also, document every visit for your notes, so you don't forget his unhinged behavior. Who, what, where, when, how. Bust out that cell phone to record his diatribes. Great advice. Documenting everything will help protect you in court. You're prioritizing the kids' well-being, and that's what matters most. Not the a-hole. My ex did something similar. The baby was just a few months old, and he said he didn't like being a parent. He had begged me to try to get pregnant and wanted a divorce. He moved out. I later found out he had been cheating before he left, though he denied it. So I served him with divorce papers, and you would have thought I'd carved his heart out of his chest while he was awake. Boo-hoo. So sad and weepy. But he didn't want visitation with his own child, so his crocodile tears meant nothing to me. My life has so much better with him gone. I hope you have a wonderful life without this scumbag. I hope your attorney gets you what you deserve. Document every single nasty thing he says and does. I wouldn't trust him alone with a baby, so ask for supervised visitation. You are obviously not the a-hole, and I'd love to hear what the judge's opinion of him was when he or she found out that he had basically cut off all support for his kids. Under no circumstances should you give him the kids' passports. Don't even keep them at home. Set up a flag so you'll be notified if someone tries to get replacements for them, or if he ever gets hold of them and tries to leave the country with your kids. Fight the 50-50 while your kids are babies. He works nights and sleeps half day. What's he going to do? Leave them home alone all night? Between the night shifts and being basically unhinged, you should get full custody. Your lawyer needs to aim for maximum child support and, depending on where you live, alimony if possible. This is a situation of his own making, and now he can go check out that greener grass he wanted. Freeze the kids' credit too. And change the locks. Now for the update. He's really escalated things and made it so ugly now. A couple of weeks ago, he forced his way into my house uninvited, wouldn't let our child go, and stole a toy from the floor. I gently nudged him out and told him he needed to leave, to which he slapped and grabbed my wrist, shouting, "Don't freaking touch me!" He then filed a frivolous and fake DV restraining order against me. The next time he had kids, he never brought them home. It was the first time my babies had ever spent a night away from me. It's been heart-shattering. We go to court next Tuesday. Fingers crossed. Install cameras both inside and out, just in case he tries to do something like this again. I also hope you change the locks so he can't try to come in whenever he wants. If he doesn't bring the kids home, that is considered kidnapping in most places. You really should have called the police the second he forced his way into your home. Kidnapping if there is a custody and visitation order being violated. If one is not in place yet, either parent has the legal right to have the children with them. OP, since there's a restraining order on you, you can't even go get the kids. Otherwise, you go to jail. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my boyfriend's parents off and thinking about breaking up because he never stands up for me? I, 27 female, have been with my boyfriend, 29 male, for almost 2 years now. For the most part, things are good between us when it's just the two of us. But whenever we visit his parents, everything falls apart. His mom and dad, let's call them Mary and John, are a lot. They criticize everything about me. My clothes? Not classy enough. My job? Oh, that's not really stable, is it? Even the way I talk gets picked apart sometimes. I try to brush it off, but it feels like death by 1,000 cuts. And it's just not the comments. Whenever we're at their house, they treat me like their personal servant. Mary will say something like, "Oh, could you clear the table, dear?" I didn't mind the first time, but then it's, "Can you wash those dishes?" And "Why don't you serve the dessert?" Meanwhile, my boyfriend is just sitting there, scrolling on his phone or chatting with his dad. It's like they expected me to play maid while they all relax. The last time we visited, things hit the breaking point. We were having dinner, and Mary made another one of her lovely comments about how I should learn how to cook properly if I want to keep my boyfriend happy. I just snapped. I told her, "Actually, Mary, I don't need any lessons, but maybe you could learn some respect." Dead silence, like you could hear a pin drop. Then John chimes in, calling me rude and ungrateful. He actually said, "We've been nothing but kind to you, and this is how you treat us? Kind? I'm sorry. Expecting me to be your housemaid and constantly putting me down is kind?" After dinner, my boyfriend didn't say a word to them. I thought maybe he was finally upset on my behalf, but nope. The second we got in the car, he went off on me. He said I embarrassed him and overreacted, that I should have just let it go because that's how they are. I told him I'm sick of feeling like I'm on my own when it comes to his parents. I asked him, "Why don't you ever stand up for me?" And he just shrugged and said, "It's not a big deal." Not a big deal? I've spent 2 years feeling disrespected and unsupported, and he's calling me dramatic for finally speaking up. I told him if he's not willing to back me up, maybe we need to rethink our relationship. He said I was being ridiculous and ended the conversation. Now I'm here, questioning everything. Was I wrong for snapping? Should I have handled it differently? Am I overreacting by thinking about breaking up with him? I feel stuck. Am I the a-hole? I'm sorry, he doesn't like you enough to stand up for you. His family sucks. Free yourself. I think you are right. If he can't have my back, then there is no future for us. Nope. Stay with him and this will continue. Except after you marry him, it'll be harder to get out. Then they'll nitpick your wedding or outright hijack it. Mother-in-law will show up in white. Then you'll have kids. And every single thing you do as a parent will be wrong. They'll go against your rules and boundaries. And when you can't take it anymore, it won't matter because you'll have kids with a man-child and his mom-wife. That stuff doesn't change even after the kids are grown. Run. Run screaming. Now is the easiest time to do it. And every minute you put it off, it'll just get harder. Not the a-hole. Find someone who respects you and will stand up for you. Your current boyfriend deserves the title of X. He's not the best way in getting that title. Just do it. You don't need a big explanation. Just say, "Dude, you're my boyfriend." That's how you defend me, but not defending me. In future situations, I'm going to have to deal with everything myself because you can't be bothered. Grow up. Find someone else to play house with because that's not me. I can't believe I ever saw anything in you. Then free yourself for much, much better men. Not the a-hole. You did the right thing standing up for yourself. You should also consider leaving your boyfriend. If he doesn't have your back, then there's no future for you with him. Thank you. Unfortunately, you might be right with this. If he can't have my back, then there's no future for us. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex's mom why we broke up? I, 27 female, broke up with my boyfriend, 33 male, a few days before Christmas. His mom reached out to me right after Christmas, saying she missed me, hoped I was feeling better, and that she'd see me soon. I was supposed to go to his parents for Christmas, but obviously I didn't since I broke up with him. That's when I realized he must not have told them we broke up and had lied, saying the reason I wasn't there was because I was sick. I reached out to him and told him. He said he hadn't told his parents yet and that it wasn't their business. Fast forward to a few days before New Year's Eve, she texted me asking if I was coming to their family party. I told her no and mentioned that we'd broken up. When she asked why, I told her to ask her son. He texted me, flipping out, saying he'd already told me it wasn't their business and to leave his family alone. I explained that she was the one who reached out to me and that the only reason I told her was because I didn't want her to keep texting me. I also told him I didn't explain why we broke up and directed her to ask him. Last weekend, I heard through a mutual friend that he was going around telling people he broke up with me because I'm crazy. I was upset that he had a nerve to badmouth me and lie, trying to make me look like the bad guy, when I had been keeping quiet about what really happened. In reality, he got blackout drunk and got physical. So, I told a mutual friend a true story, including photos of my injuries. I then forwarded the same photos and story to his mom. I said, just so you know the true reason we broke up, I heard he's spinning the story against me. Your son is abusive and has hurt me on numerous occasions. I wish you the best, but I wanted to clear up whatever he may have told you. She was super apologetic and took my side. Then my ex blew up my phone, flipping out and saying what happened between us was no one else's business. I had no plans to share this with our friends or his family, but when I heard he was calling me crazy, I felt it was only fair to tell the truth about what actually happened. Did I cross the line though? I feel like maybe I was an a-hole for telling his mom instead of just telling the mutual friend. Honey, the next time a boyfriend gets physical with you, file a police report. As you have unfortunately experienced, it is very common for abusers to victim blame and claim she's crazy. You don't owe him your silence. He hit you. He lost his precious anonymity as soon as he got physical with you. And tell absolutely everyone you know the reason you broke up, but be careful, because he will try to get you back however he can. Stay safe, little sister. Thank you. I didn't want to cause any unnecessary drama. I wasn't even going to tell anyone, but did take photos just in case it came up later / he wanted to lie. He loves to gaslight and call me crazy. You have photos. Nice. Girl, file that police report now. This isn't about unnecessary drama. This is about protecting yourself from when he claims you're defaming him to his friends and family by making accusations. I was in an abusive relationship. I told his mother and our mutual friends. I was sued for defamation because if I was a victim of abuse, then why didn't I file a police report? They always blame the victim. Get hard evidence on your side like a police report. Can I still file a report 3 weeks later with no visible injuries anymore? I have photos, but I feel like if I were to have filed a report, I should have done it right after our fights. I never did in the past, nor did I take photos in the past. Last story. Am I the a-hole for wanting a divorce my husband doesn't want and risking no relationship with his child? My husband, 33 male, and I, 30 female, have been married for 11 years. He is in the military, and we have lived all over the place. During this time, I have taken on most, if not all, of the household chores. Grocery shopping, cleaning, cooking, laundry. When needed, he has mowed the lawn or hung stuff up on walls. For most of our marriage, I've also had a job. In the past, I asked for help around the house, but it wasn't even considered. He even threatened to eat off of paper plates or eat fast food so that I wouldn't have to worry about his dishes. Fast forward to now, we have a 13-month-old baby. I've been staying home since the baby's birth, and I'm still responsible for cooking, cleaning, laundry, groceries, pets. Everything is on me. I decided to revisit the topic of dividing chores because I'm feeling so burnt out. I breastfeed all night, handle bath time, feed a baby at mealtime, clean up after meals, and do the dishes. He thinks going to work is enough and accuses me of not being grateful for him working just because I'm asking for help around the house. I told him, why are we married then? I can just get a job and do it all myself. I'd find a way. He reluctantly agreed to help after I mentioned that this was it for me. The following week,
Every time he fed the baby, changed the baby, or put food away after dinner, he would make snide comments like, "I hope this is enough," or "Am I doing enough?" One day, we got home after grocery shopping. I got the baby out of the car seat and went to the other side to grab a few bags. He said, "No, I got it." I said, "Please, let me get some." He said, "No." As we were walking inside, he said, "I hope breaking my back is enough for you. I feel like I can't win." I told him it feels like he's punishing me for asking for help. I mentioned divorce and he said if we divorce, he won't be involved in our child's life. He said, and I quote, "It's all or nothing." He claims he doesn't want a divorce. We currently live overseas, and divorcing would mean me moving back to the States near family with our baby, while he stays at his duty station. Am I the a-hole for considering divorcing my husband, knowing that he would choose not to know his own child? How can I do this to our baby? But how can I live like this? Am I asking for too much? He already seems like he has no relationship with his child, so what would be the difference? If you move back closer to family, would you have help? Either way, not the a-hole. Your husband sucks. Yes, I would have a very large support system. As a military person, I'm active duty. I'm going to let you know that him breaking his back and making snide remarks is ground for divorce. God forbid he is in the Air Force, because that guy should have plenty of energy for home life. So many military men think they are God's gift to their families because they sacrifice. Of course his job matters, but even then, he should want to love and respect your needs. I'm so over this scenario.
I didn't react the right way to my husband's pranks and now our marriage is not the same. Original post. If you think we're young, then think again. I'm female 35 and is male 33, and I can't believe this is really happening. I begged him to go to therapy with me, but he's refusing any type of conversation. About a month ago, while having Sunday breakfast, my husband left his iPad on a counter when I was doing the dishes and went to the gym. Now that I think about it, he went out of his way to draw my attention to the iPad the whole morning, placing it on display and leaving it wherever I was. Now I know why. When I was loading the dishwasher, he got a text and a picture of naked female torso with a caption, "You missed this?" The number belonged to Eve. I froze in my tracks. We've been married for 2 years and we have 2 children together, male 5 and female 3. Against my better judgment, I started looking, and there was this full conversation for over a week. He was cheating on me with his Eve. I can't describe the amount of pain I felt, and I ran to the bathroom vomiting and crying. Anyway, when he got back from the gym and asked me what's wrong, I just handed him the iPad and told him that he has gotten a text from Eve and that I needed to go out for a walk if he could stay with the children. He said okay. I went for a 3-hour walk. He texted me multiple times if I was okay and I said that I was fine, just needed a walk. I don't remember crying this much my entire life. When I got home, I told him that I knew about his affair and asked him how we're going to do this. Do what? I told him that we obviously can't stay married, but that I needed to know how we're going to do this with the least damage possible to the children. I told him that since he has his parents living nearby, he could move out and let me stay with the children for now until we're separated. He says, "Is that really all your reaction? Are you freaking serious right now?" I just looked at him all puzzled. What did he mean by this? I told him that I couldn't discuss this now because I was exhausted. He started yelling that I was so careless and cold. My reaction to his infidelity wasn't a proper reaction, or at least not one he expected. He then shoved the iPad in my hands and asked me to call Eve. I refused and ran to our room because I couldn't believe how cruel he was being, wanting me to call his mistress. Effing call the number. So I did. And the number belonged to his friend and he was laughing on the other line saying it was all a prank. It took me a few moments to get it, but then I started crying. My husband was livid at the way I handled the prank. He was disappointed that I didn't care enough. I don't know what he wanted me to do. He couldn't explain what he expected me to act. He just yelled that he didn't expect this. Now, a month later, he's still so cold and distant with me. I tried to apologize and explain that I was hurt, but shocked because that wasn't him. I tried to explain that I just didn't want to hurt our children. I told him that I loved him so much, and that if that was something true, it would have broken me. It did for the few hours I believed the prank. But he thinks I'm too cold and apathetic and my reaction was abnormal. So now he's cold and apathetic towards me, and I think this whole situation is abnormal. Now for the top advice before reading the updates. Hey man, remember the time we convinced your wife you were cheating? Yeah, haha, had her good. She was crying and screaming and vomiting. Silly witch. Yeah. Still see the kids? Nope. This is literally the stupidest husband in the world. What a complete idiot and an a-hole. He enjoyed seeing his wife upset. I would exit this relationship very quickly. This almost reminds me of that story about the husband who put slugs into his wife's food because he enjoyed torturing her. What's so appealing about emotionally, in this case, or physically, in the slug case, torturing your significant other that you chose to spend the rest of your life with? It's scary. This is the crappiest, most immature prank I've read about it in a while. It's not even a prank. It's just cruel. I know. I still wake up in terror from nightmares. Stop apologizing. He has the audacity to tell you how you should feel or react to him cheating? Who does he think he is to determine the correct reaction? He is butthurt that you are confident and logical enough that you won't break apart from the thought of not having him. He fancied himself all you had, and is enraged you are confident and know your worth. He is honestly one of the worst cases of narcissistic tendencies I heard of. I would tell him that he is a deeply messed up individual, and unless he goes to therapy to see why he needs you to break apart at the idea of not having him, you think he should go to his parents and you need time to reevaluate. Did he expect you to get down on your knees and beg him to stay? These freaking pranks have gotten out of hand. That's such a messed up prank, especially to leave you ruminating on it for hours too. Also, what kind of prank about cheating with weeks building up for it? That's so horrible. It sounds like he was just trying to hurt you. And what is up with his reaction? Like what? He expects you to stay with him if he cheats on you? Freaking hell. He and his friends are doing it to their wives/girlfriends. My reaction wasn't as good as the other women apparently. What would a good reaction be? Did he want you to be all jealous to show your love for him? You reacted in a calm, mature manner. Honestly, I probably would have been the same. He pulled a crappy prank and is mad at you for your reaction. He is not taking any accountability for the harm he caused. You have no reason to apologize to him. He was being a bad partner. He and his friends need to find a hobby. And probably new partners. This is so low. I am so sorry this happened to you. I am enraged on your behalf. He's actually lucky. I've seen so many women get the screenshots and not tell the husband. They go right to the attorney for papers. His butt could have been handed divorce papers. He should be the one apologizing. He probably won't, as he's too immature to even see how harmful this was to your trust. That even as a joke, you still had the same gutted reaction. You got physically sick thinking about you and your children's future. You can see a therapist for yourself. Maybe he'll come to one of the sessions. First update. I don't know why the apologizing part is being taken out of context, making me out to be a weak woman with no self-respect. I'm not apologizing nor begging. I apologized, and not because I thought I did anything wrong, but because he was hurt by my lack of emotions. I explained to him that my lack of emotions came from shock and not indifference. He did not buy it, and that's where we are now. Also, the fact that I answered truthfully about my husband never acting this way before and was downvoted because of it. I'm not saying that because I'm being a victim of brainwashing, but because that's the truth. I'm not defending him. I'm trying to be accurate in case someone actually wants to help me. I need all the facts rather than just cast judgment based on their own experiences and assumptions. This is the first time we hit a dead end, it seems, in our relationship. We have always been a loving couple, and if I was a weak, manipulated, mistreated wife with low self-respect, I wouldn't be planning separation and divorce the moment I thought he was cheating. I won't be engaging with the negativity anymore, and I honestly regret opening up to strangers just to be attacked. I'm thankful for the support from the majority, but I hate the feeling that I need to agree with BS assumptions or I'm being defensive or an apologist. I'm not deleting this post in case someone somewhere can benefit from it, but I'm done here. Second update. Hi, I decided to make an update after all, mostly out of respect for all of the people reaching out asking for one. I will make it private however, because honestly, as much as I appreciate the enormous response, it became overwhelming for me. I couldn't read all the comments, and a bad one stuck with me more than I want to admit. I never considered myself weak or stupid or as easily manipulated as I was portrayed. This morning, before my husband dropped off the children at daycare and the dogs at a dog center, I asked him to talk to me. I told him that his treatment of me for the last month wasn't sustainable and that I have given him space long enough. But now he has to do something. Talk to me, try to find a solution or set me free. He asked me to meet up with him for lunch because we were both running late for work. At lunch, he apologized for the prank and he said he couldn't believe that he went with it and how stupid it was of him to think that it was harmless and playful. He said that he had been feeling miserable about it and so guilty, but that he has never felt so worthless in his entire life. I showed him how disposable he was to me and how easily I could believe something this horrible about him, accept it, and make plans to move on within hours. Even if I have cheated on you, you showed no sign that you loved me enough to at least ask me why. If the roles were reversed, he would have been angry. He would have confronted me. He would have asked me why, who the other man was, what it was that he, the other man, had that he didn't, and so on. I told him I was thinking all of these things, but I had other priorities, like the stability of my children's family life, and I heard it would cost them to have divorced parents. Because he knew me well enough to understand that I would never forgive a cheater. I pushed away my anger and feelings of disappointment because all I was thinking of was how we could provide our children the best life with 2 homes. I was eventually going to process the anger and hurt. I knew I had all the time later for grief and rage. So, he told me that he wanted to move out to his parents but that he wasn't sure how to manage without seeing the children every day. So, I suggested that he could pick them up from daycare every day since I work later than him. I could pick them up from my in-laws after work. I also suggested that we could split the weekend. He was silent while I was planning. He then said, "I love you," and kissed me and hugged me for a long while for the first time in weeks. When I got home after picking up the children and the dogs, he was already gone with his clothes. He texted me around 11 p.m. saying that he couldn't believe that I was doing it again and that it was done. I called him and he told me I was, again, a matter of fact and unemotional. I seemed unfazed, like him moving out wasn't a big deal. He felt redundant again, and disposable and unnecessary in my life. I told him this was so unfair, because I've missed him, and I have missed him all these weeks when he was ignoring me. I was just trying to give him space, and respected his wishes because I still wanted us to work things out. He didn't want to listen anymore, so we hung up. At 2 a.m., he texted that this wasn't working for him and he wanted a divorce. I just texted back, okay. Third update. I want to thank you very much for all the support. I'm sorry for all the doubtful voices about help from strangers on Reddit. While I'm my own woman and isn't easily manipulated, I was so appreciative of the support here. I was doubting myself, brooding and all consumed in my own confused thoughts. My husband found my posts, and he said he was so ashamed of himself and the way he handled our problem, especially after reading all the comments calling him out. Now, we have a lot of work to do if we're going to make it. I'm still not 100% sure why he acted the way he did because I've always been clear about my feelings and how much I love him. I never felt that life and the children came in the way. It just made my love for him even stronger. But I'm not gonna dismiss his feelings if he really felt neglected and disposable. He hasn't moved home yet, but we have been on dates and we have been spending quality time together. Before all of this happened, we were talking about having another baby and maybe moving into a bigger house. We are waiting with this. I wasn't sure how I would tell him that I wanted to wait without it sounding like I'm cold and have given up on our future. So I tried to show more emotions this time and make it clear that I just want to wait until we're back on track. I don't cancel the plans altogether, but he was actually understanding and kind of relieved. We'll see how this goes. I love and miss him so much, and the children miss their daddy at home. Thank you again. He is obsessed with testing you and your reactions. How childish. And after you explained how you put your own emotions aside to process later, because your first thoughts were how to make sure your kids were okay, the way he keeps reacting is a huge red flag. Please don't take him back. He blew up at you for prioritizing your children. Run. He is embarrassed about what he did. He read all my comments, and he was really ashamed. Odd, because I told him everything I wrote here, so I don't know why it's made more impact on him seeing it in writing. I've asked him whether he's jealous of our own children, and he said maybe, but that he regrets that too, because he's ashamed. This is the heart of the problem. He is insecure, so he is constantly testing you. The problem, as far as he is concerned, is that you are the emotionally mature person in the relationship. So, he attests to get an emotional reaction from you that would reassure him that you really do care about him, but you respond with logic and reason, setting emotions aside. This comes off as cold, distant, and uncaring to him. Let me guess, his family of origin is volatile with lots of spectacular fights followed by magnificent makeups. Yes to the last part. His mom is very hot-headed, but she was very understanding when I told her my version, and she gave him a scolding. His parents are very good people, and they love each other deeply. There you go. I'm sure they are good people. They've also taught your husband that a loving relationship is a volatile one. One shows one cares by fighting, and getting angry and upset, and then making up. You are more emotionally mature. You can hold on to your emotions, set them aside, and deal with problems with logic. To your husband, who expects anger and explosiveness from loved ones, your response appears cold and unfeeling. He flat out told you so. Counseling would help. I don't want him to move back home just yet. The time frame is when I start trusting him again. He is troubled, and I want him to get to the bottom of why he's so troubled before I let him completely back in my life. And he must understand the pain he put me through. Last story. My wife resents me because our life isn't like the social media she watches. Basically what the title reads, my wife is obsessed with TikTok and Instagram. She follows these influencers who appear to have crazy lives where they travel the world and have huge closets full of clothes, and everything seems so perfect. I see my wife just staring at their posts looking depressed, and I've begged her to just take a break from it, and she won't. Now, my wife and I aren't rich by any means, but we are definitely comfortable. We both drive nice paid-off vehicles, have zero debt, have a roof over our head, renting, and have a pretty fat nest egg in the bank, as well as a nice Roth. We never go without, and she's able to shop constantly and has all she needs, but it's never enough. We have been married for a little over 4 years, and we have traveled to many different states that neither of us have been to, and have always thought they were fun vacations. Well, cut to last week. She randomly goes, I want you to take me to Paris. And I said, maybe one day. The world is kind of crazy right now, and I wouldn't mind waiting. And she replies, my broke friend from work is getting to go to Europe. Yet you refuse to take me on any fun trips. I knew I should have traveled before marrying you. And then tells me of all the influencers who she watches that get to travel for a living, while we have a boring life. I'm not sure why, but this broke my heart. I try so hard for her, and plan weekend getaways and vacations, and surprise her with nice gifts, and she acts like she regrets marrying me. I'm only 25 and she's 23, and we have the rest of our lives ahead of us. I don't know what to do, but I'm tired of never feeling like I'm enough. I've told her how I feel, and she told me that I need to man up and quit complaining, and that I'm a sensitive child. I love her, but fear that divorce will be my only option. I can't live like this forever. Now for the top advice. I love her, but fear that divorce will be my only option. I can't live like this forever. You may be right. I find myself wondering how old she is, and how she's so susceptible to influence like this. She's 23, I'm 25. Lol, there's your answer. You guys are very young, and it's completely normal to have wanderlust at that age, and feel somewhat caged by the lifestyle you have. However, I agree social media is very toxic in regards to this. How about you guys do a few backpacking trips together in Europe or South America? You don't need to be staying at Ritz in Paris, but you guys can stay at cheap hostels/hotels and have some interesting adventures that it sounds like you can afford. It could scratch your wife's itch for travel, brings you guys closer together, and spice things up with adventure. I want to, just not now. I just feel like everything is on the edge in the world. I also feel like I would be giving in to her immature whining if we went right now.